Hey, Fail Females! So welcome back to another episode of Fail Female Friday. In today's case, we're actually going to be going to the land of Down Under, so I guess also known as Australia. In this case, it's actually not a very well-known case, I guess, unless you're from that area, but I thought it was very interesting, and so let's just go ahead and get started.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
And so, of course, we always start off with our killer. Well, in this case, we technically have two. The first one being Brittany Jane Dwyer, who was born on June 30th, 1997, according to her Facebook. Apparently, she was from New Zealand, but had moved to Australia sometime during her childhood. She had a sibling named Ryan, who was 5 years apart from her. I would assume that he's older, but I couldn't exactly find whether he is older or younger. Brittany was said to have actually been a bubbly child. As she entered her teenage years, she was getting bullied, so of course that caused the bubbly side of her to go away. She would befriend a Shelby Lee Angie Holmes, and her mother had hoped that Shelby would bring her back to her happy self. Unfortunately, Shelby was more of a bad influence rather than a good one, and so then Brittany would move out with Shelby when she was 18, and so then paying bills stressed her out. So then Brittany started doing more drugs, because apparently she started doing drugs at some point during her teen years, and so she was drinking vodka, cocaine, and ecstasy. And then sometimes she would meet a Bernadette Burns on Facebook, who was born in 1995. She was a New Zealand native. When Bernadette was 17, she had apparently lost a daughter in a custody battle, which resulted in her getting deeper into her depression and resulting in a drug addiction. Bernadette and Brittany would actually become friends very quickly, with the two constantly watching horror movies. And Brittany herself had even imagined herself committing the acts done in said movies. Of course, neither one of them worked, so they were low on money often. And then Brittany came up with the idea to rob her 81-year-old father, Robert Whitwell. And so, something about Robert apparently didn't trust banks, so he kept all of his savings in the house, which apparently was like over $100,000.
Damn!
And so Brittany would get Bernadette to travel 1,200 miles with her to Adelaide, Australia, on August 5th, 2016. Bernadette would change her mind last minute, and Brittany told her basically to stay in the car. And then Bernadette was in the car doing makeup while Brittany went in. Robert would actually be surprised that Brittany had showed up and would show her photos of her childhood, which apparently has softened her heart and made her text Bernadette that she can't do it. And then Bernadette would text her to just do it because we had came all this way. And so then as she's leaving, because apparently she was only there for like 5 to 10 minutes, as she was telling Robert that she had to go, she would get behind Robert and stab him in his stomach and then his chest, causing him to bleed rapidly. He struggles to get to the cabinet to put on a band-aid, to which Brittany had actually helped put on the band-aid, remember, because he got stabbed on his neck. And then Brittany had then texted Bernadette that it was done. She then went through the wallet and found only $1,000 and 2 digital cameras. They looked at the house to find that $100K, which is the reason why they were even there, and they can't find it. Later, $98,000 would actually be found in the shed, and $30,000 was apparently found somewhere in the house. So then, of course, they leave the scene. They would tell one of the neighbors to collect his mail and give him the keys to Robert's letterbox. And apparently, it was like 3 days before Robert's body was found, after his newspapers were started piling up. And so at the funeral, Brittany would basically play the role of a grieving family member. Bernadette would call her to tell her that she had told her roommates because she felt the need to confess. Crime Stoppers would get a tip to look at the two of them, and both would later end up confessing. Before going to trial, Brittany would say that Robert had violated her when she was younger, but he wasn't sure if it was him. The court would later dismiss this due to lack of evidence and the fact that she brought up last minute as a way to try to justify her killing him. Her defense would also ask for leniency, despite her being 19 at the time of the murder, so clearly an adult. And so then Bernadette would get charged with murder without intent and have to serve a minimum of 13.5 years. But because she is from New Zealand, she may have to get deported back to New Zealand after her release. So then Brittany would get a murder charge also and have to serve 21 years. And so it would later be revealed that 4 months prior to this, remember this happened in August, so like April, that Shelby, she had gotten Shelby to drive all the way up there to Adelaide to rob the grandfather first. And so then Shelby would tell Brittany over text that Robert was lovely, to which Brittany had told her, don't get too attached because he might have to die. They returned the next day, still in August, with the intention of stealing only 30 grand, but were scared off due to a sensor light, barking dogs, and a neighbor. And of course, they go look at Shelby and Brittany's texts, and apparently it was over 19,000 texts will be recovered over the span of 2 years. Shelby would have given 17 months suspension and charged with trespassing. And so Robert's wife, Joyce, because apparently Robert was married, Robert's wife, Joyce, was soon after die in the nursing home while suffering from dementia. And so that is the case of the murder of Robert Whitwell. And so yeah, that was the case of the very tragic death of Robert Whitwell. And so I guess what we can learn from that is don't tell everyone where your money is or exactly how much you have unless it's like in your will and you're already deceased, because he was like in his 80s. So I don't want to be too negative, but he probably wouldn't have had too long to live anyway. And so yeah, I hope you guys learned something new, and I will see you fail in the next one. Bye.
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palms. Play with me like cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna set me free. You know I'm addicted to you, and it's twisted, you've been gifted with the evil voodoo. Got me coming back for more, even when I've been screwed. Dolls full of pins, pierce my heart straight through. I got issues in my head, I like you in my bed, but you keep me on red. Oh, everything is like a test, I better not text or I'll come off desperate.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, baby, you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed, thinking something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing?
So if I play dead, will you regret everything that you did, that you said? I don't think you understand what you're doing, and my heart's black and blue from the bruising. I feel like when I'm with you I'm losing. I feel like you think that this amusing, sitting there gaslighting and confusing. Was it me? Is it me? Am I deluded? I'm the one who's always sorry, the conclusion, even though I offer all of the solutions. I wish you loved me like I love you, it's stupid. When I'm alone with you I never feel lucid. I wish I wasn't struck by Cupid. I wish when I first saw you I knew this. When I'm with you I feel so useless, I feel diluted, my heart's been wounded. Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palms. Play with me like cats and a string.